Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Culture and the Cross podcast, where we talk about what's going on in our church here in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Rock Church, the things that we have seen on social media, and then, of course, questions that need answers. And if you're new here, hello, I'm Artra.
I'm Corey.
Yeah, so let's jump right into the happenings and why we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. If you did not know, we are not from Raleigh, North Carolina, and why we decided to plant here.
Yes. As you said, we are not originally from here.
We are Virginians.
And I lived in Virginia almost my whole life until I was 25 years old and got married. I lived in Virginia all of my first 25 years. So I've lived in Virginia most of my life. But yeah, most of the time when people plant a church, it's intentional where the location is very important. There's generally a sense of calling to that place or to that city or to that area of the country or even that part of the world. If someone is an overseas missionary or feel called to go to a different country. And for us, and there's some ways this happens. Sometimes people may feel called to what the city they grew up in. Yeah. So I know people that are from where we're from in Virginia, and they planted a church right there in Virginia, where they grew up at, and some do that. And then there are others like myself who have, moved to different places. And so one of the reasons we planted in Raleigh was because it actually wasn't, and people ask me this too, for us, in all honesty, it wasn't actually for the church that we initially that we moved to Raleigh.
No, it wasn't.
It was more of a decision, just a family decision. It was in the best interest of our family. We wanted to be closer to Virginia, but not quite in Virginia. Neither one of us wanted to move back to Virginia after Archer finished her military career. Yeah. And as we were looking around, we were looking at Raleigh, Charlotte, maybe Richmond, maybe Northern Virginia, DC, DMV area. But
Raleigh really Raleigh it won us over.
Yeah, there was a piece here.
Yeah. And I think too, at the time, both of our parents were my parents were still in Virginia. Your parents are still in Virginia.
They are.
And at that time, Raleigh was for them, it's like a 3-hour drive. And then if we lived in Charlotte, 5-hour drive.
Right.
And we were already so done with having to drive so far. 3 hours was that's nothing compared to us when we lived in Texas and Georgia.
Can't go home on our plane ticket or a 12, 13, 14,
yeah,
15
that's
hour
nothing.
drive.
3 hours is nothing. So
So we decided to settle here. So it was really and this is an important thing to recognize too. It was really important for our family to be good. Yeah. It was really important for me to where hey, let's move where we know. We obviously at that time we had our second child, so we had two. They were very small. Then we got a young family. Where we moving to? Where we gonna raise these kids? Jobs, all of those things.
In nice neighborhoods.
Yeah, and so we really started looking RDU. I didn't know it. We didn't know anybody here. I knew one person here in the area who. I knew one person here. I didn't know him that well. Obviously, as time I found out, I didn't know him as well as I thought I did. I didn't know him as well as I thought I knew him for some odd reason. To this day, I still don't have an answer for that one.
That's okay.
But I knew one person, and
I knew no one.
I didn't know anybody. But other than that, I didn't know any person, but one person I knew. And
but I was used to just being places and us not knowing anybody because before we moved here, we were military people, so it was it's just us. Who cares?
Right.
We just traveling.
Right.
Let's go.
Exactly. And so that's actually really, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm weak off that. But once we settled on the area, I actually had a friend whose mother lived here. I have a friend whose mother lived in the area in RDU. And so she began to say good things about it and gave us some recommendations on some areas to move to. And then it actually too, even further than that, it's funny because, as you're kind of praying about where God is leading you, we would have many conversations about, hey, what do you think about Raleigh? What do you think about Charlotte? What do you think about Richmond? What do you think about D.C., moving to Washington, D.C.? And I feel like every time we would talk about moving to Virginia Beach, D.C., Richmond, it's we would almost get into an argument about it.
It wasn't almost.
I mean, it was a mild disagreement.
We would get into major disagreements about moving to Virginia. I don't know if
you understand. It's it would be a lot of tension about any other place that we were talking about, those places that was on our list. But then when we talk about Raleigh, it'd be
that sounds good.
Our conversation really was I think Raleigh, I think it.
And then it was well, Raleigh is the capital, so there is stuff to do.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not as like jumping as Charlotte, but it's also not the middle of nowhere.
Right. And so as we prayed about it and talked about it and prayed about it and thought about it and pros and cons, it came down to Raleigh. And then once we finally moved here, that's when it became like super clear that, hey, this is the place like to plant the ministry. Because I knew we were going to be moving forward at some point. I just wasn't 100% sure of the timeline, but it really was when we got here where it was like, okay, it's time to like really start moving forward. Let's start having our worship. Let's start gathering people, and let's start moving towards, planting this church. And so that's really how it worked out for us. And we did, I think I mentioned this earlier, I don't know if I did or not, but we did what's called parachute planting or parachuting. That's where you kind of, as a church planter, that's the terminology for it, where you drop into a city where you're really not from and you build a team and plant a church, and people have done that. People do it in big cities, small towns. It happens. It is when I think back on it now, I sometimes wonder how different it would have been if we had moved back to like where I'm from in Virginia Beach, how different that would have been, because I know some people there, not known, but just know people. I grew up in church there. So I would probably know more people from just the church world there, and as a musician there as well, new people. So I sometimes wonder how different it would have been, but I am convinced that I know for sure this is what God is leading us to do here in Raleigh. Yeah. And, or if we had done it somewhere else, like DC or something, how would that have been?
We did talk about like moving to Colorado too.
Yeah, right. In the mountains would have been crazy. The Rock Church, Colorado, it would have been crazy, right? Yeah. But, I think I know that God, I really feel God led us here for this purpose. And, who knows what the future holds? I always say, I don't know if I'm going to say that or not. I always say I won't ever plant another church.
Yeah.
I be saying it, but then I'd be like,
I think only because in this season when you're in the very beginnings of it, and we didn't start with like a, what did you call it? Like a launch.
We didn't have a massive team.
We didn't have like a massive like budget. Launch team. We didn't like partner up with like, launch team organizations or whatever. Yeah. So when you're starting, it really feels like you are digging deep.
Yeah.
But I think years from now, when you look back at it, you'll probably think differently.
I might, yeah. And I'm not saying like I would never plant another church because like this was just crazy. But most of just like I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna be doing this with the Rock Church here in Raleigh for a while. That's really why.
For sure.
And I didn't always feel like that, but I feel like I'm like no, like I feel like. But I try to be honest, and even people amongst our church I've had conversations with, like, I try to be open and know, like, I don't know what God may lead me to do in 10 years. Like, I don't know. I can't, but we don't do ministry as if we're the end all be all. I'm like, God may call us somewhere else and call someone else to take over the church, Yeah. Like, that happens all the time. People plant churches and then God may call them elsewhere. I know a guy, I listen to, his name is Ed Stetzer, and you guys, if you listen to church stuff, you may know his name, but
never heard
he's planted like 4 or 5 churches.
Oh, wow.
Like, and one of he always mentions is in like New York. It's like still going. He planted like 30 years ago. Church still there. They going on like, and so, but then he went on to plant like a couple others. And I think he's like maybe doing another one, from the last I heard. So some people do that. And so I've never tried to position it as if like, we always gonna be y'all ain't never gonna leave. It's like, nah, right. But it'll be if God leads us. So Rock Church, we not going nowhere right now. God ain't told me to go nowhere, But I think about that as a planter. I wonder sometimes, do you have that DNA, Corey, of like, we about to move to New York City or something?
You in this New York
I think
City.
That sometimes I wonder, am I
he
that
wants
type
to
of
move
like,
to New York so bad.
No. I just use an example. Well, I sometimes wonder, do I have that in me that
I do.
Let's do it again. Let's move to God send us to Florida. I'm not saying that I'm not it's not far fetched for me. Like it used to be like, nah, bro, this one. But now as time goes on, I'll be like, not that I want to, but I'm like, if that's what I feel like if that's what God had for us, I would be open to that. If that's what God had for us. But
I'm not gonna just be doing it just cause.
No,
I'm not doing that.
I don't feel like that's what God has for us right now. And I feel like Rock Church, I'm right here in Raleigh. We're going to be here. We living in North Carolina. We North Carolina living.
We're North Carolinians now.
Right.
Is that what it's called?
After 5 years, are you North Carolinian?
I'm always claim I lived in Virginia until I was 23?
Right.
24.
Right. Yeah.
I was 23.
You're a Virginian.
But I'm a Virginian. And I'm not changing my number. I'm always going to have a Virginia area code.
I feel like after we've been here for like 20 years,
Yeah.
it'd be like, all right,
Our
bro,
kids, however, are North Carolinians.
they are.
They don't claim it. They sometimes even have a little country accent.
Right.
Yeah, they're North Carolinians now.
Our little Carolina children.
Our North Carolina children.
And here we are.
But yeah.
So, yeah.
That is that. That's
why
how
we are here
we got
in
here.
Raleigh.
That's how we got here. Okay,
Yeah.
so as seen on social media. That's a new jingle. Okay, so as seen on social media, it seems like the children are just running amok. So recently, an 8-year-old went on a joyride. Took her mom's Nissan Rogue at like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and literally drove across town to Target, and like was buying frappuccinos, like, and everything. Like she was like,
crazy.
Yeah. And then recently, probably like a day or two ago, I saw another article about this little boy who he was 3 years old, left the daycare, crossed the street, ended up, what was it, at the Walmart or something? He ended up at the Walmart.
Crazy.
And had a bag of chips and everything, like going up to the register, asking people to like pay for it.
And
for
some
him.
Hot Wheels.
Yes, chips and Hot Wheels. He's determined and focused.
Hey, I'm about to play and eat these chips.
I'm gonna have the time of my life. But
3 years old.
yes.
That is crazy.
So what would you do, like, you know, if our kids were back at the daycare and they're 3, and you know, Hot Wheels is all up Ezra's alley. Like, he loves a Hot Wheel, and he loves his Cheeto Puffs.
Right.
So what would you do if like you found out that he had left the daycare?
That's crazy. Because I think about where our kids were in daycare. There was like, the nearest thing was like a Dollar Tree that was right down the street. It wasn't that far. So it's like me thinking
they would
about
have been
them
all up in there.
walking out of the daycare, walking down to the Dollar Tree at 3 years old. And it's a busy street, a busy main street where it was on. It was just like that. I wouldn't even know. I would be beside myself.
But then I'm like, so
as a parent with the daycare, for sure, I would be like, how in the world did this child get out?
How did my child get
to the door without someone noticing? Someone saw it. Like,
y'all didn't see like that y'all were missing a child. Like, how did that happen? That they said he like crossed a street, like everything at 3.
That's terrifying. So as a parent, it'd be different if they're at the house and they get out. That's different. But if they get out the daycare, I would be beside myself, because I'm like, was the doors not locked? Was it cameras? Where the teachers at? You know, I mean.
Yeah, I feel like these are honestly some really smart kids.
Yes.
They're smart.
Because like,
that girl to drive, like, she's skilled. I remember when I was a little girl, she drove the car. And I remember when I was a little girl, my dad had like a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And I wanted so badly to drive. I wanted to drive so bad. I was probably maybe like 6 or 7.
Okay.
So I found the keys. I turned it on. I was like, I'm about to ride out this neighborhood. And I ran right into my next door neighbor's car.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was probably maybe like 6, 7.
I'm sorry. You what? You backed into somebody?
I never told you that.
Car?
I never told you about that. Yeah, I ran into their car.
I feel like you never told me that.
I drove into it.
Oh my God, we're learning things on the podcast, y'all. Secrets coming out.
I hit it.
That's
I don't
crazy.
think it was like a big
massive thing.
No, but it was definitely like I hit their car.
Wow, that's crazy.
But this girl did good. She only hit a mailbox.
I saw that.
She only hit a mailbox.
At 8 years
She's
old,
gonna be an amazing like NASCAR driver.
I wonder what she's been practicing on. Like maybe they've been letting her like practicing, sitting on your lap driving, or she's just been driving like
I don't
electric
know.
cars. I'm like, girl, you can drive if you 8 years old.
And she drove across town. They didn't say that like, oh, she just drove like 10 minutes up the street.
Hit
like,
somebody's car and ran in the ditch. Like, no, she drove to Target.
It
was in Target.
Parked the car and everything.
Like, look,
she had her mom's money with the frappuccinos. I do, however, like that the police allowed her to finish the frappuccino before they were like, hey, girl.
She like went and bought some and everything.
Yeah, she bought up stuff.
Did she had like $400 or something, or did she have a card? I heard somebody say she had like a bunch of cash on her.
I think she had cash.
Where'd she get the cash from?
Well, I don't know. Because you know how my dad, he has like a cash box too. But my thing's like, she woke up early. She was like, I'm not waiting for y'all. I got stuff to do. What kind of mission are you on?
Yeah.
For real though, I would love to see her Target haul. Like when she does on TikTok, hey guys, just got back from Target.
Maybe that's what she was planning to do. Maybe she was planning to do that.
A Target haul?
Yeah.
I would love.
She probably would have drove back to the house and been like, oh, what you been doing this morning? Nothing. Just
I would have
chilling.
loved to see her Target haul.
What if she didn't get caught and this became like a regular thing? Where she like went to Target every Saturday. Got up every Saturday morning at 7 o'clock and was at Target when it opened. And no one caught her.
And doing Target hauls by the afternoon.
TikTok audience going up like crazy. That's crazy. Man, listen.
But they're not pressing charges.
Well, she can't press charges. I mean, even against the parents, like, what's the charge? Like,
I mean, I think from like stealing the car.
No, I'm saying even like if you say, oh, we can press charges against the parents, it's like, if we're going to press charges against the parent, what would you say? What's the charge?
No.
Negligence? I mean,
I guess.
The child
endangerment? I don't know.
But it's like, what did you didn't endanger the child. You know, it'd be different if you left the child and you went to Target and left the child home and then the police come. All y'all latchkey kids from back
I can't
in the
wait
day.
to see what she's going to be like when she grows up because that's a woman that thinks.
Yeah, that's a smart child. Even
that's
the
a
3-year-old
smart child.
like,
Same with, the 3-year-old too.
Child. Because
to be able to walk across the street, go in there, get your chips, get your Hot Wheels, get to the register and ask people for money.
I think, but that shows too, like how much people, and I mean by people, I mean all of us, we kind of get in our own world. Because I'm like, a 3-year-old ain't that big. No one noticed these. And the article said he was walking around for like 20, 25 minutes until a family friend noticed that worked at Target, worked at Walmart, noticed the boy. But I'm like, at 3 years old, how big was the child? So I think I'm like,
a 3-year-old is not big. Y'all didn't see him?
Even with the 8-year-old, it's like, now, some kids by that time, they start to grow. Now, I mean, if you're tall, there's a child at our kids' bus stop.
Oh, yeah.
This child's a very tall. I mean, I think this child's tall as me.
Yeah.
She's as tall as I am because she gets out the truck like, and I'm this child's my height.
She's a tall girl.
That's a tall, and there's nothing wrong with being tall. So but she said elementary school. This girl ain't number 10 years old.
I think she's probably like 5th grade.
She gotta be 5th grade because she's been. I mean,
she's 5th grade because by now.
But she like my height. So my thing is, you can be by the time you get to 7, 8, 9, they start to. If you're really tall, if you're gonna be a tall kid, they can start to grow. So I can see how the child could be like she's a taller child or something like that. Could be. But I am curious because I be thinking, well, a child still look like a child though. You would think.
I think she got caught because she was swerving.
Oh, probably that makes sense. She wasn't that great of a driver, but she still got there.
But she still got there.
Our child is not getting to Target.
They're not getting anywhere.
Right.
Elena ain't no way.
Well, I don't know, honey.
You think Elena could drive to Target?
Not drive the car?
How you think she gonna get there? Ride her bike to Target?
Yeah, they did.
I could see them doing that. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna get that idea in their head.
Now the thing is, because where we live,
but they would have to cross that.
It would be very
busy highway.
It would be a very, very interesting situation.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be safe for them because of how our
I
neighborhood
could
is set
see
up.
them.
But yeah,
I could see them riding cross town to their friends on their bikes.
See, the thing is, I think we're protected because we live in an area where just the way to get out the neighborhoods, it's straight out to the streets. It's dangerous. Right. It's not like before where you had all this so massive neighborhood where you could just ride on the back roads. Our neighborhood's not like that. You know what I mean?
So, our last neighborhood? Oh, they would have been gone. They would have been
gone.
You
could just get on the sidewalk and just be riding for a minute. Because I did it when we lived over there. I used to just kind of be on the back roads and you don't really have to get on the busy street.
You could have easily been at Target over there.
See how, right. And they built a new Target over there.
Oh, you could have easily been at Target over there.
Just across the street, you good. You there. But where we at now?
Oh, you're not going anywhere.
Anyway, we talking about our whole personal life. But like, it is interesting. Can y'all kids listen? If you got kids that age, can y'all kids get out there?
I need to know. Are y'all kids? Do you think they could do that?
If they like that age, 8 or 3, 4, 5, they 3-year-old walk to Walmart, y'all. Yeah, that's crazy.
I do think that though, if the street wasn't so scary out there, Elena and Ezra would be on them bikes. They'd be gone.
Yeah, but I think too, like then you reminded. The last thing I'm saying about this is it reminded of like the naivety of it.
Oh yeah.
Of like even the 3-year-old like, oh, just walk to Walmart. Like if you haven't, I guess if no one's told him like that's not safe,
he doesn't know.
Why wouldn't I just go to Walmart and get Hot Wheels and shit? Like, what's the problem? So I think it is amazing how like when you're so naive, you're just like you don't even know how dangerous it is for a 3-year-old to leave the daycare and walk to Walmart, or even an 8-year-old to drive a car. But just not 8-year-old may know a little better, but the naivety of it to just be like, hey, no one's told me this is not safe, So why
So
not?
I'm gonna do it.
And now he probably never do it again. But like,
Oh, he's
our
never
kids have done
probably
stuff
gonna.
out of naivete and just like,
They've never done it again.
well, I guess I didn't realize I couldn't do that.
No, our children have definitely done some like outrageous things.
Yeah, and you're like, do you know how unsafe this is?
Where you just frame them.
Do you know how unsafe this is? And it's like, I didn't realize you couldn't do that. But it's like, no one ever told me I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So that's funny. So anyway, y'all protect your kids.
Please lock them bikes up before they ride around.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to move on now to our questions that need answers.
Yes.
Okay. And so this one, it says, okay, in a world filled with constant negativity, in the news reports, social media, and my own personal struggles, how do I stay hopeful when I feel overwhelmed by the world's problems? That's a
phenomenal. Phenomenal question.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. It seems like lately, anytime I turn on the news or I read articles or whatever, it's like, Lord Jesus, just rapture us up. My God. Like this world is, it's getting crazy. It's getting so crazy. Yeah. Then I saw articles too about, the aliens is got to get out of here.
Right.
Like I just don't need this.
No, we don't. Yeah, as always, I mean, we're on social media. You're probably watching a clip of this on social media, Yeah. So much going on. It's so much. But, there's always been a lot of stuff going on. So there's always been news. There's always been controversy. There's always been political stuff. There's always been people being, heard, news. Listen, I always make that joke about watching the news that one night a few years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
We both sat there for about 5 minutes. And it was like, a fire broke out in North Raleigh and burned the house down. Somebody a old lady was mugged. Right. And then on tonight, there's another shots fired down on Capitol Boulevard. And we both sat there for probably 5 minutes. And it was back to back to back to back of like, and I remember looking at you kind of like, I'm not watching.
We immediately turned it off and we don't watch it anymore.
I don't watch that. And that was like the traditional 5 o'clock news. And I was like, why would I sit and
the
watch
local
this?
news? And I was like, we're not watching this anymore because I'm so over. Like I got instantly stressed out. Like no.
Right. COVID is coming back. It was just like
you're all gonna die.
I was like, man, this is crazy. So
yeah.
But there's always been this stuff. But as we know now, we just have access to it. We get hit with it. We can get it
on a constant basis
every single day. I mean, dare I say every minute, every hour. If you want some news, and if you want some news, you can get it. And it's to the point where it's not even just our local news.
World news.
World tragedies.
Nationals,
civil wars,
everything.
Natural disasters, plagues and all around the world. Just dictators rising, wars breaking out. You can really see all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I found, I know for me, I know that I can get easily like overwhelmed with it to where sometimes I have to just simply log off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I literally physically log out of my social media accounts and say, you know what, I don't need to look at that no more today. And I don't do it all the time, but when some stuff gets picked up, I'd be like, I had enough of it. Mm-hmm. I don't need to see anymore. I think that's one of the things that we do to combat it. Sometimes you really just have to step away.
Yeah, and also like for me, sometimes to combat it is because sometimes if I start seeing negative stuff, I will go into like a rabbit hole of just like, oh no, everything's negative now. Yeah. But I think in those moments, I have to trust in God's sovereignty. Yeah. And then the scripture that Romans 8:28, which is also a scripture that my mom repeats on a constant basis, and that now I like keep it in my mind, and that God is working all things for my good. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you just got to think about like God's sovereignty in it all. Like, even though things are going crazy and things are just so chaotic, but God's always working for your good. There's always, there's always something working behind the scenes for his glory.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah.
And I think too, when we talk about stuff going on, social media, all this stuff, there's this tendency now, especially when things happen, I know for us, when things happen around the world, there's a tendency for everyone to be like a local expert on everything. Yes. I'll give a prime example. This was last year this time when Hamas and all of that began to really pick up over in the Middle East and Israel and Palestine, it seemed like everybody now was an expert on Israel and Palestine. I'm like, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all don't even know nothing about this.
You just learned about this 2 hours ago, and now you're on social media
right.
talking about it.
You're not a political correspondent on the deep affairs of Israel. Like some people are, but then if something breaks out in China, well, this is really what's happening. Man, let's speak intelligently. I think I try to be honest enough to say,
I don't know.
I actually am not an expert on the civil war that's happening in, I know someone was telling me about it at our church. There was like what country in the Congo? Yeah, there was like what was going on in the Congo? This was over the last few months.
It was some type of
right.
war.
But somebody in our church,
I had to do some research on it.
It's from the Congo, right? And began to tell us like, be praying for like her. I think it was her grandparents, something like that. Today, I can't remember the exact details, but be praying for her family because she has a family over there. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And it's like, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm an expert on what's happening in the Congo, like, because there are problems literally right here in Raleigh that, not to say we have, not to say we can ignore what's happening around the world, but like my pastor told me when all this stuff happened in Israel, I asked him one night we met, we was meeting with another pastor. I was like, Pastor, what do you think about this? Pastor Myron, what do you think? And he was like, to be honest with you, what can I do about it right now?
Pray.
That's it. He said, all I can do is pray for them. I can't do anything about that. I'm not going over there to fight. I can't change the war. Like the best thing I can do is pray. Like I was like, I don't have a take on it because there's not really anything I can do about that. Yes, we can be knowledgeable. We can read. And he did mention too.
Yeah, you can do like the petitions and just read up and things like that.
And I asked him, and this was more like a theological perspective, like what things are happening in Israel. Do you think this is end times, like all this? And he was like, things I do. I read commentaries. I read scripture on it. So he didn't say, shout out to Pastor Myron. He didn't say just go be oblivious. He was saying, hey, read up on those who are knowledgeable if you can. Try and get some knowledge. But he said, at the end of the day, we can't stress about that. I can only pray for them because there's nothing else I can really do about it right now.
Right.
There's not in my control. And I think when stuff happens, especially around the world, and people start to, the social media noise picks up, people start making posts and all that. Don't feel this pressure to like engage in something that hey, I'm not educated on this. Like all I can do, if something happens right now, if a school shooting happens in California right now, there is absolutely nothing I can do about that but pray for those who are lost. Pray that they find the person who did it. Pray if you're knowledgeable enough to with the law, if you're passionate about the laws and gun control, if that's your thing, all those different things. I'm not to get into because I know people get arguing about that. It's not about that, but get knowledgeable about it to the best that you can. But realize the limits of what you have too. And I think for me, it's helped me to realize there's a limit to what I can do. This is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you go, is that even for our church, when controversial things happen on social media and all that, there's actually many things I don't speak about at our church. It's only a handful, and I mean a very handful of things that I get up in the pulpit and I address from the pulpit. I'm talking like this is like massive things. I'm trying to think the few things I've mentioned. Probably when abortion, that law was overturned. It was a couple years ago. Yeah. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, I said something about that. Because that was a massive monumental thing. I think before that we had a good conversation early in the pandemic when Black Lives Matter picked up like summer 2020. We had a conversation over Bible study about it. I'm trying to think. There's probably maybe been like one or maybe two other thing I can't remember,
but I don't remember
all this other stuff. I don't go because I realize, I have to be wise and like the pulpit at the Rock Church is not a political platform, and it's not a social media address every hot topic platform. We ain't talking about P. Diddy at church on Sunday. Like, I know we know about Diddy, and we see what's happening there. I know people talking about that. I'm not talking about
all over the place.
I'm not talking about that in church on Sunday because we're here for the scriptures, and if he gets saved, I might, but that's just a side note. But like, that's not the platform for that. And so even with social media is that, you have to know the limits of your platform, of your realm of influence, and know when to step away from it.
Yeah, I understand like being overwhelmed by it, but you have to realize that like you just sometimes have to just pray and release it.
Yeah, you have to trust God
and just trust God that like He is sovereign God, that He knows what's happening.
Absolutely.
He is Abba Father. He knows the beginning from the end. And yeah.
It's really just taking that pressure off, man. Once again, I'm not going to rant about this, but it's really just realizing the limitations but also realizing your power is that your greatest power is to pray.
Yeah.
When these things happen, when the tension happens, when we're entering now, it's almost October. We already know politics, the election. We know folks gonna be talking they're talking a lot of stuff over the next few weeks and a lot of things. But our best course of action is to pray, man. Like remember, Jesus says, "If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. I will hear the land. I will forgive their sin." Like our power is still in prayer, and I think that. Even we talked about this on Sunday about the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Yes.
Ask the Lord of the pray to the Lord of the harvest. Ask the Lord of the harvest to send workers, right? He gives us a solution. The answer to the harvest is to pray. The answer to all this angst in our world is to pray. The answer is to do like they said in the end of Revelations where he said, "Come, Lord Jesus." Like that is really our responsibility as believers, but also get educated. If there's a thing that you're passionate about fighting for and about being involved in,
then fight
there's
for
nothing
it.
wrong with you being involved in the issues, because I don't believe we should just relegate it to the world. No. If you feel a passion to get involved in the political scene and what's happening with abortion, if what's happening with politics, what's happening with guns, what's happening with school shootings, if you feel a burden, a real burden to get involved in a wholesome way to fight justly, get involved and get educated. Get involved in the school system. Get involved in the political scene. Get involved in the policing system. If you feel a genuine burden to affect change. Now, but if your burden is
don't let it overwhelm you.
Yeah, don't let it overwhelm you. And if your burden is to just argue with people on TikTok, like come on, man. We gotta be You use your energy for something more.
Yeah.
But realize the limitations as well. So
you are only human. You are one person.
Right.
You do not have to take on the cares of everyone and everything.
Right. But you do what you can, and you leave it up, like you said earlier, leave it up to a sovereign God, that God will settle all of this, and he has settled it at the cross. And we're just waiting, really waiting in time for God to settle all of this, man. All of this is still in his hands. So, and we trust God in that. So.
Yes, we do. All righty.
All right, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like and subscribe and comment and share.
Share it. If these episodes are good for you, share it with somebody. Send this to a friend. Help us, boost our reach, for the culture and the cross. We want to keep doing this, and so we appreciate y'all sharing.
Yes, and then we'll see you tonight for Bible study.
Bible study tonight, 7:00. See y'all there.
7 p.m.
All right, y'all.
See ya.
Peace.